Hello, and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. This one is actually an interesting warm-up that I've never really done before, but I sort of stumbled upon it this week, and I think it's actually a really, really good one. When I first stumbled upon it, I felt like it was one that I've never heard before, and definitely have never really done before. But the more I'm thinking about it, I think this is actually a pretty popular warm-up for like marching band stuff in particular. So if this warm-up is familiar to you, let me know in the comments. And if you have a name for what you call it when you do it, let me know. And if it's a new one, then that's great. It's a new one. I really like this one because it is sort of a hybrid of all three steps of the warm-up process. You have long tones, you have technique, and you have articulation. And the best part of it is that it's really great for coordinating tonguing in scales. I was working on some recordings this past week that had some articulated scales, and I was using this exercise of this technique that I've learned a while ago in the particular passage that was really helpful. And that technique is to play the tongue scale, but slurred with the metronome to make sure that your fingers are super precise, and then tongue just the first note of the scale in rhythm with a metronome to make sure that your tongue is super precise. Usually when you have that bad coordination where you get sort of that where it doesn't sound super clean when you're tonguing your scales is because there's bad coordination between the tongue and the fingers. And 90% of the time, it's actually your fingers are probably rushing a little bit and your tongue is actually usually pretty close to the right rhythm. So I was doing that exercise of slurring it to check in with the fingers, tonguing just one note to check in with the tongue, and then putting it together. And that's basically what this little warm-up exercise is going to be. So what I want you to think about for this warm-up exercise is sort of three different blocks of things that we're going to be doing. One is just a long tone, because it's always good to just do a long tone to get the sound going and get sounding good. The other one is technique, which is slurring. And then the third one is articulating. And I guess there's actually a fourth one where we put the slurring or the technique and the articulation together with the tongued scale. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this. I'm on my A clarinet, so don't be concerned if you feel like the notes I'm playing aren't really the real notes. Also, just a bonus tip, it's a good idea if you have a wooden instrument to try to play it at the very least once a week. That keeps the wood all in good shape and keeps things from shrinking up too much and not being a clarinet anymore. It's been more than a week since I've played my clarinet, so I'm playing it now. So let me just demonstrate this scale. I'm going to be doing like the first 5 notes of the C major scale, so you can hear sort of how I did this exercise, and then I'll talk about a few variations and what to get out of it. So just to break this down, basically what it is a long note, and then I'm tonguing 2 beats worth of 16th notes, and then I'm slurring 2 beats worth of 16th notes up and down the scale, and then I tongue the 2 beats of 16th notes. Long, tongue, 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 slur, tongue, 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 tongue. And the point of this is that it connects everything. You get the tonguing with a metronome. This is a great exercise, like pretty much all warm-ups should do with a metronome, but you get that metronomic tonguing down, you get the metronomic fingers down, and then you put them together. And theoretically, if both of those are going well, there should be no problem lining them up as long as you just continue thinking about that steady metronomic rhythm. Now, a couple sort of variations that you can do of this is just switch up those blocks. So we have long tone, tongued single note, slurred scale, and tongued scale. So we have sort of 4 different options, and you can do those in whatever order you want. One that I was experimenting with this morning that I liked was long tone, tongue single note, slurred scale, tongued single note, tongued scale. So then you go straight from tonguing one note to tonguing the scale like this. kind of like that one, so that you slur to get your fingers going, but then you go straight from tonguing one note to tonguing the whole scale, so that you have that consistency, which is pretty nice, of the continuous tongue motion, rather than slurring the scale and then trying to get into the tonguing of it. Another variation that you can do with this is actually do more than just the first 5 notes of the scale. If you do 9 notes of the scale, then it ends up being, I think, 4 beats of 16th notes. Let's see. Yeah, 4 beats of 16th notes. So then you could also tongue 4 beats of 16th notes. And that was, again, another variation of the blocks where I just went long tone, tongue single note, tongue scale. So you can come up with all kinds of different sort of variations to mix this around. And the cool thing about it is it covers all 3 steps of your 3-step warm-up, in that there's one long tone to really get the sound going. And even though you're doing this with a metronome, and should be doing this with a metronome, you can hold that first long tone as long as you want to get a very good sound, and then get on with the metronome for the articulated bits and the scale bits. And then, like I just said, it has articulation because you're articulating that single note, and it has technique because you're thinking about your fingers as you're going up and down. Now, I don't know if that you should just throw out the whole 3-step warm-up and just do this single exercise all of the time, because I think it goes by a little fast to really get as much benefit as you can focusing on each of those things. It's a little hard to like really go in depth with the quality of the long tone, the technique, and the articulation when you have to do it all back to back so quickly. But I think it's a great way to start sort of bringing things together. And like the title of this, tongue and finger coordination, I think that's the best purpose of this particular exercise, is to work out that tongue and finger coordination. And of course, that was just in C major. So you could do this in all 12 of the major keys, all 12 of the minor keys if you want. It could maybe work on a chromatic scale. It might be a little weird on a chromatic scale or not a major or minor scale, but you can experiment away, because that's what warm-ups are all about, is just mix and matching notes and techniques and things so that you can sound your best and you can be confident doing long tones, creating a great sound, the sound that you want, doing good technique, moving your fingers while maintaining that great sound, and doing great articulation, shaping the notes, moving your tongue, while again maintaining that great sound. So I hope this exercise was interesting for you. If you've done this exercise before, or you know a name of this exercise, I would love to hear that in the comments. Like I said, I sort of just stumbled upon this in my practicing and thought it would be a great one to share with you all. So if you know officially what this is, then definitely let me know. And thank you so much for watching this. And I look forward to seeing you next week in the next live weekly warm-up.